tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading on light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Put my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading on light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Put my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare.
All right, hello everyone, Grand Rising. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right, so hello, Aqua Girl Rising, we the people. All right, that Crazy Beach Aries, G from the land, Measured Man, Reggie is in the virtual building, Claudette. All right, Queen Amoni Huey is here. Let's get into it, Chris B. All right, so shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. Now, before we get started, as per usual, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, so let's just get right into it. We have a lot to cover. First things first, let's talk about Jim Baird and his wife being in this car crash. Okay, now if you don't know who he is, that's an Indiana congressman. And this is him right here, the little robust man. Okay, on the side of Trump, the other bald, ugly one that looks like I don't know what, looks like an ostrich. Of course, you know, that's Stephen Miller. We have to get into this rant where he went into full-on crash out mode live on air. Okay, so we're going to talk about it. But first, they report that Indiana Representative Jim Baird and his wife are being hospitalized following a serious car crash. President Donald Trump confirmed this in televised comments to House Republicans on Monday, saying they're going to be okay, but they had a pretty bad accident. Okay, and they also paid tribute to California Representative Doug LaMalfa, who passed away suddenly on Monday. Okay, also a Republican. Speaker Mike Johnson also addressed LaMalfa's death and Baird's hospitalization before Trump spoke, according to 4 people granted the condition of remaining anonymous to describe the closed door comments. Now, Johnson said that he believed Baird was dealing with a spinal issue. Baird's office said in a statement that his vehicle was struck in an accident. They say Congressman Baird is in the hospital and is expected to make a full recovery. And he is extraordinarily grateful for everyone's prayers during this time. Now, it's not clear when or where the crash involved Baird, who's 80 years old, by the way, where it took place. Another Indiana Republican, Representative Jackie Walorski, was killed in a 2022 auto collision that also claimed the lives of 2 congressional aides and another driver. House Republicans are already dealing with a tight 218 to 213 margin following LaMalfa's death. Baird's hospitalization could further complicate Johnson's ability to wrangle his majority in the coming weeks, effectively leaving him with a 2-vote margin. Do y'all hear this? Huh? Do y'all hear this? I mean, as if it couldn't get any worse for the Republicans. Now, at a time like this, one of their own colleagues just passed away, another in a car crash, and this is what they're worried about: how many votes they can muster. Are y'all listening? Prayers for this man and his wife, a speedy recovery, I guess. I mean, he is a very good and close ally of Donald J. Trump, so I'm sure that he's nefarious. But nonetheless, I'll still wish him a good, speedy recovery. Okay. With that all being said, let's continue, because Maria Corina Machado came out and spoke to Fox News. I don't know why she went to them. Well, I guess because they're allies of Trump's. But nonetheless, she spoke about Maduro. Okay, I wonder if she's going to say anything, because I haven't watched this, but I just wonder, is she going to say anything about Trump stabbing her in the back? Okay, I wonder if she's going to say anything about that. So let's go to that footage, and then we're going to talk about what China has to say about this whole situation with the United States going over there and kidnapping the president of Venezuela. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Lights up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Maduro prevented you from being on the ballot. How was he able to do that?
Well, because they absolutely control the judiciary system and also the electoral council. So it was a miracle. Everybody told us it was impossible to carry independent elections in a primary process. And we were able to bring the country together to carry these elections organized by civil society with millions of people participating. And the fact is that cowardly, he feared us, he feared me, Maduro, so he thought that by banning me, he would stop us from winning. But exactly the opposite happened.
Now the question is, when do you believe that you might make your return to Venezuela? Do you feel safe in doing so?
Well, first of all, I'm planning to go back to Venezuela as soon as possible. As I've always said, Sean, every day I make a decision where I am more useful for a cause. That's why I stayed in hiding for over 16 months. And that's why I decided to go out, because I believed that at this moment I'm more useful to our cause, being able to speak out from where I am right now. But I'm planning to go as soon as possible back home.
And I want you to tell us, you never went back at that point. Did you not go back because you feared for your life?
I mean, January 3rd will go down in history as the day justice defeated a tyranny. It's a milestone, and it's not only huge for the Venezuelan people and our future. I think it's a huge step for humanity, for freedom and human dignity.
Corina Machado, thank you. Godspeed. Please be safe.
I know he didn't say Godspeed. Did y'all hear that? This little low down dirty self. I absolutely cannot. Okay, so that all being said, it makes sense as to why Fox would have her on because they know that she's the direct opposition, the main opposition to Maduro. And also, this is the same woman who dedicated her Nobel Peace Prize to Trump. Okay, so they feel like, oh, she's a Trump ally. So let's have her on here, to help justify the nefariousness that Trump has done. Listen, we all know, or at least we should, that Maduro is not a good man. Okay, he sat up there in court talking about, I'm a man of God. Please sit down, sir, because your own people say otherwise. But with that being what it is, that does not excuse the fact of what Trump did. Okay, there are certain procedures, protocols, and laws that you have to abide by, whether you're the president or not. And Trump blatantly has no respect for the law, the Constitution, or anyone other than himself. Okay. And so that is not going to be an excuse. And you see, the people who think like Trump or the people who like Trump and who just follow him, they don't they never hold him accountable. No matter what he does, it's always okay. And these are the same type of people, the people justifying his actions and saying, well, they were bringing all these substances to the United States. They keep going along with his narrative, but they've never seen one piece of evidence to substantiate any of the claims. But these are the same people who, when the narrative is put out or when a story comes out about a Black person, being taken up out of here while they were unarmed, these are the same people that'll say, well, they should have followed lawful orders. Well, you shouldn't be committing crimes. They'll say all this ignorant stuff to deflect and gaslight from what the real problem is. Okay, that's what they'll do. And then they'll blame the victim for their own demise. And that's what they do as it pertains to Trump. Okay, that's what they do as it pertains to Trump. They'll say, well, all the people in Venezuela, they're glad that Maduro's out of there. Well, they may be glad that Maduro is gone, some of them, but do they want Trump in control? And Stephen Miller just had this whole rant. I mean, he was talking big-ish. Okay, we're going to go to that in just a second. All right, likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, with that all being said, China has some things to say and pretty much condemned the United States' actions. However, they didn't issue any threats or anything like that, but they did condemn it. Okay, so let's go to that first, and then we'll go to what Stephen Miller had to say. China, one of the world's biggest buyers of Venezuelan oil, reacted to President Trump's ouster of the Latin American country's leader over the weekend with a series of condemnations. Okay, as the world continues to assess the shocking weekend move to arrest President Nicolas Maduro. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, here we go. Oops. Wrong thing. That's not the video right there. Hold on. That's the next one we're going to watch.
Over the weekend, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured by U.S. forces in a surprise military operation. Now, many questions remain over the future of the oil-rich nation. President Trump has said the U.S. is now in charge of Venezuela. And this morning, Maduro appeared in federal court in Lower Manhattan to face U.S. drug trafficking charges. For more on the market reaction, the stocks to watch, and what happens next, we're joined by Yahoo Finance's Ben Worschel, Inez Ferre, and Jake Conley. Ben, let's start with you and the view from D.C. here, because, yes, President Trump has said we're in charge, but we've gotten some mixed messaging, and I assume there's going to be a lot of confusion in the coming days.
For sure. Mixed messaging is a nice way to put sort of the back and forth here over this weekend about exactly kind of what policy changes are in the offing in Venezuela as a result of this. As you mentioned at the top, Trump has said that the U.S. is now running the country, but it is worth noting that the acting president of the country right now is a woman named Delcy Rodriguez, who was the vice president last Friday to Nicolas Maduro and is a longtime ally and a longtime socialist as well. So she offered a statement last night that offered sort of conciliatory language towards the U.S., talked about a cooperation agenda around shared development between the U.S. and Venezuela, but exactly what that means isn't clear, and how her new administration begins to work with Trump and his team very much up in the air, especially on this oil front. I think this sort of shared development is clearly a kind of a code for oil, but exactly what that means for the U.S., for all the other countries involved in Venezuelan oil, it remains to be seen. You mentioned the kind of muted effects of this so far on oil markets and equities. I think the way this changes is on this oil front, especially with China. That's the sort of area I've been focused on this morning. Venezuela has been described as China's biggest ally in Latin America, a big consumer of Venezuelan oil. Chinese companies are involved in developing oil fields in Venezuela right now. There was a big one last year that talked about a 20-year deal between the U.S. and a Chinese firm. So that, I think, is the major front. So far, the Chinese have just offered condemnation of what Trump did over the weekend, but haven't threatened specific responses. But even Trump acknowledged last night China has a lot of levers to pull. So I think that's a big strand to watch in the days ahead.
And Ben, there's also a lot of course, international reaction here to what has happened, and a lot of speculation about whether this will enable or conversely put curbs on other leaders internationally making these kinds of moves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other major changes that could be happening is sort of whether Trump feels empowered by this, and we'll see a lot of that in the days ahead to do more of this. Just in the last couple of days, he's talked in similar terms about Colombia, the nation of Colombia. He's talked about Greenland, and he's talked about Cuba, all three areas that he might look to do something similar in the days ahead or days or weeks ahead, depending on kind of the outcome here in Venezuela. I think the initial reaction of Venezuela clearly shows us that maybe the economic effects could be muted. Those are a lot more complicated situations that could be a lot more complex, depending whether the markets tends to start to believe Trump may actually follow through on a lot of these new threats he's making.
Sprout Smith number 2, eating organic.
Okay, now with that all being said, that was a lot of information. Now hold on, because another publication says that China issued what they consider to be a lukewarm response. Okay, let's get to that in just a second. Now, Lawyer says, oddly, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Venezuela all attacked within a week following the Mar-a-Lago visits. Well, nothing that Trump does at this point is a surprise. Like I told you all days ago, Trump has issued strikes on 8 different countries since he's been in office. Okay? Also interesting. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. And thank you for your insight into the topic. Now, that being said, let's go to this next report, and then we're going to go to Stephen Miller's whole rant.
China's initial lukewarm response to the Venezuelan crisis has come into the spotlight. The country was left embarrassed as Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured by America barely 6 hours after his meeting with a Chinese delegation. Beijing has now toughened its stance. In a rather strong statement against US on Sunday, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi stressed that no country can act as the world's police and claim to be the world's judge. Wang told his Pakistani counterpart Ishaqdar that the sovereignty of all nations should be fully protected under international law. Now, this is being seen as a significant escalation if we look at Beijing's first statement on Maduro's ouster on Saturday. To begin with, the Chinese Foreign Ministry had merely called out US for violating international law, saying that such hegemonic acts threaten peace and security in South America. Subsequently, China issued another statement asking America to ensure the personal safety of the deposed Venezuelan president and his wife and release them immediately. In fact, it also urged the Trump administration to stop the toppling of the government of Venezuela. Now, remember, China's stance assumes significance in the backdrop of its close ties with Venezuela. In 2024 alone, China purchased goods worth nearly 1.6 billion USD from Venezuela, which is reeling from sanctions. As per reports, the last meeting between Maduro and the Chinese delegation focused on addressing concerns over the threat of a US military intervention. Last year, Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed that his country has an all-weather strategic partnership with Venezuela.
Right. So China is a very big ally of Venezuela, as we already know. The U.S. is ticking everybody off. Okay, they have everybody looking at us crazy. Now, Danielle says, Queen, do you think that Trump is so drunk with power that he'll go after China and Russia? He's a damn fool if he does. I don't think he's that crazy, but I do think that he would uh, try to do something shady. You know, I don't think he would actually go after them, like trying to start a war with them. I mean, that would just be like, that would be totally crazy. But I do think that he will mess with them, play little games with them. He's already done so with those tariffs. Remember when he hit China with all those tariffs, just to try to prove his power, I guess. And now listen, China has strongly condemned the U.S. capture of Maduro, describing the U.S. action as a blatant use of force against a sovereign state. Now, Chinese officials say this violates international law, Venezuelan sovereignty, and the principles of the UN Charter. Beijing has called on the U.S. to immediately release Maduro and his wife and to ensure their personal safety. Chinese diplomats have lambasted the U.S. for acting as a world policeman or world judge, saying no single nation should take such unilateral action against another country's leader. The use of force is labeled as a hegemonic behavior and a dangerous precedent that could undermine international norms and regional peace. See, Trump's shaking up the world. He literally is. This man is this is the devil himself. Now, China has made these objections in public statements and at the United Nations, including Emergency Security Council meetings where Beijing criticized the U.S. operation as a threat to the sovereignty and global stability, basically saying he could destabilize the entire world. Okay, globally, destabilization. I want y'all to pay attention. Chinese regulators are also reportedly assessing financial exposure to Venezuela, given China's extensive lending and investment there, reflecting apprehension about economic and geopolitical fallout. Now, separately, China has indicated that it respects the arrangements made by Venezuela's government after the U.S. operation, including the interim leadership, emphasizing respect for Venezuelan sovereignty and independence. China has deep economic and diplomatic ties with Venezuela, particularly around oil and investment, and the capture of Maduro puts pressure on Beijing's foreign policy narrative of opposing unilateral military interventions. Analysts suggest that Beijing may use the incident to criticize U.S. global leadership while reinforcing its own model of diplomacy, even as China stops short of any military action. Okay, China wants to be the global leader. Okay, that's what that is. China wants to be the number one spot. They want to be the global leader, not the United States. All right, and at the end of the day, Trump's gonna, oh my God, what is he doing? This is all crazy. Okay, this is all just a nightmare. Roddy says, Black Americans, prepare yourselves. Do not be naive. This have already gone bad the whole 2025. Exactly. All right, it's going downhill on a steady road. Now, with that all being said, let's get to this interview with Stephen Miller, the wanton supremacist devil, okay, in Trump's cabinet. And, he really was talking a whole lot of ish. He said, damn straight we did. All right, we'll get to it in just a second. Let me share my screen. DJ Big Six said Trump has been given orders. Of course he has. Of course he has. All right, here we go. Enlarge that.
Just now, Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. So a source briefed on the Venezuelan operation told me that a handful of American troops sustained bullet and shrapnel wounds, but none are life-threatening. Can you share with us how serious any injuries to American service members might be, and also any information you can tell us about any Venezuelan civilian casualties?
Yes. Well, let me take the second part first, which is that the overwhelming share of casualties and fatalities that were inflicted were against the Cuban guard that had exerted control over the people of Venezuela. So what many don't realize is that for years, Maduro stayed in power through an illicit deal with Cuban communists to provide his security because he didn't trust his own people to keep him safe. That is how much he was hated inside of Venezuela.
Now, I want you all to pay attention to how anytime these people are asked a question, okay, certain questions, they just simply will not answer the question directly. They'll just start deflecting or just start talking about something else, or just going into all these details about something to which they were not even asked. He's doing exactly what Marco Rubio did. But let's continue.
Venezuela. So what our special forces encountered when they did that daring midnight assault into Caracas were armed Cuban guards, and they sustained massive numbers of casualties. I can't give you an exact number. The numbers that you've seen in terms of the Cuban guards publicly reported are probably lower than the actual number that were killed. To your first question, no, none of the, at least as I've been briefed, none of the injuries are life-threatening. Everybody is stable. And it just underscores the remarkable skill, precision, courage, and capability of our special forces. And I wanted to set the table one more time for your audience. I'm sure you've talked about it at length already, but the United States of America launched an assault force into Venezuelan territory, which has sophisticated air defense systems, which has sophisticated surveillance systems, which has weaponry that they've received that can take out planes and helicopters from our foreign adversaries. They've been stockpiling for years in anticipation of the possibility of such an action. Maduro was staying in a military fortress. In other words, since the United States had started amassing this armada under President Trump's leadership and direction, he'd increasingly narrowed the scope of his own movement. He was sleeping in a fortress. And so we flew into Caracas. These special forces engage in direct gunfire with elite Cuban guards, and every...
Now, I want you all to pay attention. Like DJ Big Six said, so very descriptive. This man is bragging and he is gloating just as Trump does. He's trying to make it sound like what they did was absolutely so extraordinary, okay? So exquisite, okay? Something that you've never seen throughout the realms of history. Is that what he's trying to make us think? I mean, he's really trying to make you envision it. So much so, he won't even let the reporter get a question in or get a word in edgewise. Okay, and then how he just didn't want to answer that question directly. Think about yesterday, we listened to Marco Rubio when he was talking about the leaks, okay, that almost got U.S. soldiers killed, mind you. And then when they were asking him questions and he said whether, he started talking about the weather had to be right. Okay, we had to make sure that Maduro was in the right place. Everything had to be lined up. And I'm like, what in the hell does any of that you just said, sir, have to do with why didn't you all, the question as to why you all didn't bother or didn't think that you needed congressional approval? That's what the question was. The lady asked him why they didn't think they needed congressional approval. He starts talking about the weather had to be right. We had to make sure he was in a certain spot. Everything had to be all lined up. There was no way we could let anyone know previously because it would have gotten leaked. So y'all can't trust Congress? So because you think it would have gotten leaked, which y'all get stuff leaked, in which they get stuff leaked all the time anyway, as we can see. But so because you think it would get leaked, that's why y'all can't even dare to go and speak to Congress? What? So just rules of law be damned. Forget the Constitution. Forget international law and world law. We'll just do whatever the hell we want. Yes, that's what they do. That's exactly what they do. And then let's not forget when Trump was talking to the reporters, and then he pretended. It was so hilarious. Did y'all catch it? When he told the reporter, "Don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll say something controversial." And the reporter then asked, "Who's in charge?" Trump says, "We are." He wanted her to ask. Okay? Any other time, if they ask a controversial question, he gets angry at them and says, "Who are you? Oh, you work for CNN? Yeah, you're a very nasty lady. Nasty lady. Go on, Miss Piggy." That's what he'll say, usually if they ask him something that's controversial. But then he told her because he wanted to gloat. These people are so obtuse, but let's continue.
Single kill. Every single kill was an enemy kill.
So there were no civilian casualties?
Well, I didn't see any reports of any civilian casualties. But my point is that in this raging gunfire battle that took place, the point that I'm making to you is no Americans were killed.
Right.
Because of the planning, skill, and preparation, the enemy sustained massive losses.
Yeah.
Not one of our assets was lost. Not one of our people was lost.
So let's talk about what next. Delcy Rodriguez was formally sworn as Venezuela's acting president this afternoon. She was the vice president. She described the U.S. intervention as, quote, "without a doubt, Zionist in character," unquote. Is acting President Rodriguez someone that the U.S. can work with?
So the acting president put out a statement. I want to say, Jake, it was last night, pledging cooperation with the United States, pledging full and complete cooperation.
But they also just passed a law saying that if you supported the operation against outlawing individuals or threatening with criminal penalties individuals if they supported the operation against Maduro. I think they did that today.
Well, the good news there, Jake, is that nobody inside of Venezuela supported the operation, so it's a law without meaning or effect. Look, Jake, there's going to be some posturing that occurs when a nation has been so thoroughly defeated in this way. The United States of America, think about this, Jake. The United States of America has encircled this nation for months. One of the largest naval armadas in history has been stationed off its coast.
Yeah.
Fighter jets have been encircling the island. We've been engaging in kinetic lethal strikes against Maduro's drug boats and trained Aragua gang members leaving the island.
Yeah.
We have launched a complete oil embargo of the ghost fleet, the dark ships.
We've
and
been
now
covering
on
all
top
of it.
of that,
Yeah.
And now on top of all that, right? Maduro is sitting in a jail cell in New York, as is his wife. So of course there's going to be, this is very important though, of course there's going to be some posturing.
Okay.
Without giving anything away, I want to be very clear. Very clear. The government has sent messages. This is such an important point, Jake. To the Secretary of State, to our senior U.S. government official negotiators. They have sent message after message making clear that they will meet the terms, demands, conditions, and requirements of the United States.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear about that, Jake.
So let's the question about who is now running Venezuela is one that even members of Congress who are big Trump supporters say they're not quite sure about. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told CNN's Manu Raju that he doesn't know what President Trump meant by his assertion that the U.S. is running Venezuela, and he said he needs more information. Can you tell us what the president means when he says, is acting President Delcy Rodriguez in charge? Is she running Venezuela or not?
Well, what the president said is true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else. But we live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world that have existed since the beginning of time.
But in terms of day-to-day operations in Venezuela, that is acting President Rodriguez, right? It's not some sort of American emissary.
No, what I'm saying is, we'll keep going here, Jake. So I want to say what I'm saying, and you'll follow up. But what I'm saying is just one level above that, which is that by definition, we are in charge because we have the United States military stationed outside the country. We set the terms and conditions. We have a complete embargo on all of their oil and their ability to do commerce. So for them to do commerce, they need our permission. For them to be able to run an economy, they need our permission. So the United States is in charge. The United States is running the country during this transition period.
If that's
now,
true,
obviously that doesn't mean that President Trump is setting the bus fare schedule inside the country.
So
doesn't mean that President Trump is assigning the K-12 curriculum in the country.
The indictment that the president and the military were acting on from 2020 was of 6 people. 2 of them were seized on Saturday by our special operators. There are 4 other individuals indicted who remain in Venezuela. Is the U.S. demanding that they be turned over? That one of them is Maduro's son. One of them is a former government official. One is a current government official. And one of them is the head of Tren de Aragua, as I'm sure you know. Are they going to be turned over if President Trump is, in fact, running Venezuela in the way you described?
Well, I don't want to, obviously, you know, we have to balance here, Jake, which I think you more than most understand. We have to balance between, of course, what I can say to you publicly versus very close hold conversations that might be happening privately. And I know you understand and respect that. But I'll answer the question in this way. There might be individuals who are fugitives from American justice that could become part of a future conversation. But it's also true that for government leaders inside of Venezuela, as the president has said, right, we want an interim government that will respect the interests of the people of Venezuela, that wants a good, peaceful, secure future for Venezuela. So I would just say it this way. For those who may be indicted, the best choice they can possibly make is to be part of a constructive decision-making process for the future of Venezuela. The best decision they can make is to cooperate fully and completely with the United States to be part of building this brighter future for Venezuela during this interim period.
On another important topic, the premier of Greenland and the premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife, Katie Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. The Danish prime minister responded to this in an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, "I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says that he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War." Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now. So I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United
States, but your wife
NATO
posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation.
No, but
that's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'm not, and I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset, Jake, by making clear that it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out the United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
One last question, Stephen.
Doesn't make any sense.
One last question. The president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela to become the next president or the interim leader. And I wonder where he got that from, given that basically her cutout, Gonzalez, won the election last year or 2 years ago, overwhelmingly, 70% of the vote or something like that. Why does the president think that Machado should not be the next leader? Why does he think she's weak?
First of all of Venezuela experts agree. All Venezuela experts agree that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge. And the military would follow her, and the security forces would follow her. This is not a serious. It's not even a serious question.
So should there be an election?
Let me. If you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States. This is sort of foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries should be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparations
about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea. And by the way, you do. I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans.
But the woman running Venezuela right now is part of the Maduro regime.
There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. To create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. Went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let.
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised. But the priority right now, as the president has made clear, is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
All right.
So let's just take a moment and just acknowledge, Jake, that what we've witnessed under President Trump's leadership this last week is one of the greatest foreign policy and military victories this country has ever had.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Did y'all hear that? Ooh, honey, he went in. He seems to feel entitled. Okay, he seems to feel entitled to run those people. And here's the thing. Now, Delcy Rodriguez, she's saying that basically Venezuela is going to maintain control over their oil industry and all of that. But Trump and his minions keep saying that she's agreed to work with them. I'm interested to find out whether or not that's true. Who's lying? It's likely Trump. But if for any reason they end up working with that lady, that's going to be real shady, because you know what that's going to look like? That's going to look like, well, we already know Trump doesn't really care about any corruption that was going on over there. It's all about the resources. But it will look like Trump just wants to be, in charge of that country. He just wants to have access to all of the oil and whatever. And even if there is corruption going on, even if there are illegal things being done within the framework of that government, he doesn't care as long as he is able to get a piece of the pie and help to basically be in charge of the corruption. Okay? Now that's what that's going to look like, as far as I'm concerned. That he doesn't care about any of that corruption as long as he's in charge of it and he's getting a piece of the pie. All right? Don't be over here making all this money and doing anything shady unless I can get some. I'm going to put a stop to it so I can get my hands in it. Okay? Because that's just what I think. All right? That's what I think. Now I'm going to wait and see. Is this lady actually going to be working with them? All right? And because you have to think about it. Trump said that if she doesn't agree with them, if she doesn't do what they want her to do, she's going to be in worse trouble than Maduro. In times like this, everybody thinks to save themselves. So who knows what she is willing to do or not. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's go to this video of this activist. Now, this activist was on the street speaking with a reporter. And they were asking her basically her thoughts on what, the operation where the U.S. captured Maduro or kidnapped him. And then after she finishes speaking, she gets arrested by the police. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. This is the Gestapo. All right? I'm sorry. That's what this is all. Are we in Germany? All right, is this 1940s Germany? Because they came up like the Gestapo and arrested her. Now, they made up some bullcrap excuse, but it was clear to see that it was all because of what she was saying about Trump's administration. Okay, so let's go to the footage. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
This is not just a foreign issue, it's our tax dollars that are also being used to commit these war crimes. It is also the duty of us, the people, to stand against the Trump regime, the Trump administration that are committing crimes both here in the US and against people in Venezuela.
Now, in the background of this interview, you could see that police car. And now right here, we're showing you video we have immediately after the interview finished. Plickta was arrested by 2 Grand Rapids police officers. You can see it in the video, and an officer tells Plickta that she is being arrested for obstructing a roadway and failure to obey a lawful command from a police officer. You can see as she's taken away in that car, she was issuing a number of messages about wanting the U.S. to free Maduro. But again, she was taken away by police officers there. And you can see in this video, officers were closely following this procession in downtown Grand Rapids. We have reached out to GRPD for more information about the arrest, but we have not heard back so far.
Now, isn't that something? Isn't that something? I find it also interesting. Snatched off the streets. Okay, so anyway, let's go to the CBS report where they talk about how China and Russia will be impacted by this U.S. operation in Venezuela. And then also Rand Paul is going in talking about an act of war. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Just made up something real quick to lock that poor lady up. That's a darn shame. Just nefarious.
Move on to this. Russia and China are among nations condemning the U.S. military operation over the weekend, capturing the now former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. For a look at the global implications of this U.S. raid, we're joined by CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio, who was holding things down as usual in our London newsroom. Ramy, good morning here once again. Help us understand what's at stake for Beijing in all of this.
Errol, yeah, good to see you again. Well, China is taking hits in a couple of big ways here. One is in its energy security because it is the biggest importer of Venezuelan oil. And then with the U.S. Military flying into Venezuela's sovereign airspace, landing on Venezuelan soil to take Maduro over the weekend, China's power projection into the Western Hemisphere has also been shaken. Venezuela was Beijing's actually first toehold into South America back in the 2000s, and now it appears to be losing that. that. I spoke with Dr. Ryan Berg. He's the director of the Americas program in Washington, D.C. at the Center for Strategic and International Studies on China's concern about getting Venezuelan oil in the future. Take a listen.
Whether all of that production, and especially any increase in production in Venezuela that might occur, is going to come to the United States or whether it will be sold on international markets. Now, China has a way to make up for what Venezuela represented, but it is not going to be easy, especially as the United States is simultaneously squeezing Iran, one of its other top sources.
And he told me that China and the U.S. are getting ready for, in his words, a decades-long struggle against one another in the Eastern Hemisphere, in the Western Hemisphere. And Trump is now making it tougher for China in, as he has said, the U.S.'s backyard.
What about the Kremlin's take on all of this? How is this viewed by Putin's regime?
Sure. Well, it's making it tougher for Russia's own power projection, too, right? Because of oil, too, there can be a line, in fact, drawn from Venezuela across the Atlantic Ocean and then over to Russia's war in Ukraine, as we're seeing it here. Remember, Russia's own exports of oil funding its own invasion of Ukraine. But then if more oil from Venezuela comes online, law of supply and demand here, that would probably push oil prices lower. Then that means Russia would have less money in its bank for its war chest because it has to cut its own prices. So that is where Russia and the Kremlin are standing on this as they see this play out in the Western Hemisphere as well.
All right, Remy Inocencio, great to chat with you, joining us from London.
He said that's where Russia is standing. Hold on. Okay, he said that's where Russia is standing. They better be standing on business. Okay, that's where all these countries better be doing, honey, because Trump is not playing any games with his nefarious self. And then there's a report that came out some hours ago that said the CIA in control of Venezuela makes sense. That's on News Nation. Maybe we'll go to that. But right now, let's go to Rand Paul. Okay, let's go to Rand Paul, what he has to say about an act of war. Soul Sister said America's wasting tax dollars. Oh, of course they are. Roddy says, why are we paying for anything on a planet that was given to us freely? Oh, I forgot. The devil is not locked down yet. It is crazy. We have to pay for water, electricity, gas. All of these things are natural resources. Make it make sense. We have to pay for fruits and vegetables, okay, that literally grow from trees and gardens. Like, that's all crazy. But, you know, that's the way it is in the divided snakes. Okay, here we go.
Whether or not the initiation of war, the declaration of war, should begin with Congress, with the people, with the people's representatives, or whether or not it should be left to one person. This was a long and very public debate. It's in the Federalist Papers. The discussion, they worried about allowing too much power to gravitate to the executive. They lamented what had happened, wars, 100 years of wars in Europe fought between the royalty, and they wanted to make it harder to go to war. So they gave the power to declare war to Congress. And I think bombing another nation's capital and removing their president is an act of war. Anybody who argues otherwise, I think, has a very difficult argument. So, yes, the Constitution indicates this should go to Congress first.
Well, I mean, you know, in that soundbite we played, you were arguing that, look, you know, I mean, are we going to go and remove somebody in Saudi Arabia? I mean, with all due respect, I think the goal here is to stop the drug and human trafficking into America. And I don't think Saudi Arabia is sending fentanyl into America.
Well, neither is Venezuela. Venezuela doesn't export any fentanyl at all.
Well,
in
what
fact,
about cocaine?
Their main product.
What about cocaine?
Well, there is some argument, yes, on the cocaine front that there are people within that country. There are also people within several countries in South America that are producing cocaine. What I would say is, look, there's no love lost for Maduro. I've written a book, The Case Against Socialism. I'm glad he's gone. I've described how teenagers are scrounging for food in Venezuela. Socialism is bad. But there's a bigger picture here also between us making this decision. For 30 years, from 1970 to 2000, the Venezuelan people kept voting in socialists. In the initial elections, they actually voted in Chavez, and most people think the initial elections were likely legitimate. But this is the end result of socialism. This is state-sponsored violence that occurred there. But what has to happen now is the people of Venezuela need to choose better. They need to realize that it wasn't just getting a bad person, but this is a bad economic system. So the oil companies have been owned by the Venezuelan government since 1976, the gas companies since 1971. This is not a new thing. So there's a bigger, broader debate we should be having here. And I don't think telling the people of Venezuela, we're coming, the gringos are coming, we're going to run your country, oil companies will come in and run you like we did in the 19th century. I think that even our friends will resist that. And so I think there's a great positive feeling for America now in Venezuela. I don't think we should ruin it by telling them, well, the gringos are coming, the gringos are coming. I think what we should be saying is, now we're going to allow you to assume your sovereignty, for you to make decisions on your oil, and our hope is that you will choose capitalism, not socialism.
Okay, and see now, had they done it that way, then you could possibly say, well, they had good intentions and that he was trying to actually help the people of Venezuela. But Trump was not trying to help the people of Venezuela. Trump was only trying to help himself. Okay, this is all about his own greed and his thirst for more power, unchecked power, where he wants to do whatever he wants to do and whenever he wants to do it. Measurement says, now I want you all to remember about a year ago where they basically automatically registered our kids for selective service. We in trouble. We in trouble. This TikTok generation with skirts. Fix it, Black Jesus. Okay, I know, right? Thank you for your insight into the topic, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Yeah, we are in trouble. I mean, with Trump at the wheel, absolutely, we're in big trouble. Now, I'm going to let this play a little bit longer, but I want to move on. But Rand Paul is exactly right, because at the end of the day, Trump, what does he look like? Taking one dictator out of office, and now he wants to still be running things, even though they have somebody already in there as the interim president. And then talking about, don't ask me who's in charge because I'll say something controversial. I mean, the fact that Trump runs the social media just like a little kid, a teenager, and this is the man that's in charge of this country is absolutely scary.
If the president shared the plans to go into Venezuela and got authorization from Congress beforehand, what are the odds that it would have leaked?
Well, the thing is, this was debated for 3 or 4 months in advance. The military made plans for 4 months. There was an armada, the largest armada in our history, off the coast of Venezuela.
Right.
If anybody thought this wasn't a possibility, the only true secret is on which day it occurred. But the thing is had we declared war and had we then said to the president, you have the power to invade Venezuela, still no one would have had to been told when.
And see, that's the thing. That is what totally debunks what Marco Rubio said with his lying self. Remember, yesterday I played you all the clip where he was talking about the reason they couldn't get congressional approval is because they couldn't go before Congress and let them know, because it would have absolutely gotten leaked. Now, just like Rand Paul said, even if it had gotten leaked, no one would know the time nor the date, because they wouldn't have even had to tell Congress the time nor the date. They'd only have had to let them know what they wanted to do and how they planned to do it. And then Congress could have said yes or no. So this is just all asinine excuses that they're making to constantly try to justify nefarious actions that were absolutely illegal. And they know it. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Okay? And here's the thing. Just like another thing Rand Paul said, it's not like this was unexpected, because I had already been telling you all for weeks that Trump was going to invade these people just like Putin did Ukraine. That was obvious. They'd already reported that he was going to start having them issuing land strikes. So we knew what was next. We knew what was next. I had also been telling you all for weeks that Trump wants to take Maduro out of power. And he knows that some of the people already want him out of power because they've been saying that he hijacked the election and shouldn't be there anyway. And Trump wants to get the credit. So it's not rocket science. So what was the big deal if they had gone before Congress and discussed this with them to get authorization? It wasn't a big deal, but they wanted to do it this way because they wanted to show a massive show of power to the rest of the world, thinking that's going to make them look so big and bad. But all they have done is made everyone look at them with a whole side eye, and now their own allies don't even feel they can trust them. And other leaders have constantly condemned their nefarious actions. Now let's continue.
The difference between declaration of war and execution of war is that nobody was asking or ever should ask exactly what the commander-in-chief is doing and exactly when. It's whether or not to go to war. And this is a big debate. In the recent defense authorization bill, the Congress actually tried to hamstring Trump's hands and say he couldn't move troops around in Europe or in Syria. I oppose that. So I'm actually for more commander-in-chief power for the execution of the war, but less commander-in-chief power for the actual initiation of war.
I understand. I mean, I think had he tipped his hand, your colleagues on the left would have leaked it. It would have gotten the Maduro regime ready for it, and they would have been better prepared. And we probably would not be talking about him in a jail cell this morning. But, Senator, I got to move on because you released new details about your investigation into the federal government's weaponized watch listing. Documents obtained by the FBI show the Biden administration improperly placed the wife of a federal air marshal on a terrorist watch list based on unverified information. Tell us more and how wide this net has gone in terms of the Democrats spying on their political enemies.
This was an appalling abuse of power and should be universally condemned. And the reason we have to keep talking about this is we need to make sure this never happens in our government again.
Okay, so I just wanted to hear what he had to say about the whole thing with Maduro. Now, that being said, the U.S., that is, has suffered political fallout. Okay, so now let's go to this report from ABC where they speak about that. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. And then after we're done with this report, listen, we have to talk about Elon Musk, because now after Trump has flexed his muscle and tried to flex his power by this whole operation to get Maduro, guess who wants to get back in the circus? Elon Musk. Now he's out to dinner with Trump. Now he's bragging about how he's going to continue to fund GOP representatives. Okay, now here he is back in the spotlight, just like the wanton supremacist that he is. Okay, it was just too much excitement for him. He definitely wants to be a part of this. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. These devils never change.
Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce with more details after U.S. lawmakers were briefed on a military attack. Top Republicans defending the action while Democrats raised questions about how the White House plans to run the country of more than 30 million people. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Michael. And lawmakers emerged from that 2-hour briefing with vastly different impressions. Republicans are adamant that the operation to capture Maduro does not constitute an act of war. Speaker Johnson telling reporters that this is not regime change and that he does not expect U.S. troops on the ground, arguing the U.S. will run the country by pressuring the government and blocking its oil exports. President Trump has said bluntly that the U.S. is in charge, even as Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, has been sworn in as interim leader. And in an interview overnight, Trump said it will take some time before elections can be held, that the U.S. will be involved for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, Democrats are demanding answers. Leader Chuck Schumer saying the administration's plan to run the country is vague and based on wishful thinking. And he says they didn't receive enough assurances or any assurances that the U.S. won't try to do this in other countries as well. Michael.
And Mary, without a clear plan, with all this going on, the administration continues to talk about wanting to take over Greenland.
Yeah, Michael, the president is still setting his sights on Greenland. One of his top advisors, Stephen Miller, yesterday in an interview said the U.S. has a right to take the semi-autonomous Danish territory, and Miller not ruling out the use of military force to do so. The prime minister there is urging Trump to stop the threats and warning this would be effectively the end of NATO. But the Trump administration is outlining a vision for a new world order where the U.S. can overthrow governments as long as it's in the U.S. national interest. And the State Department posting this picture of the president on social media yesterday with the words, "This is our hemisphere." Michael.
All right, Mary, thank you for that. We appreciate you.
Texas was feeling.
All right. Hold on, beloveds. Now let's get to Elon. Okay, Elon Musk. Like I said, now he wants to make a return. Trump and Musk share lovely dinner at Mar-a-Lago after publicly feuding. Musk poised to return to the political spotlight. I'll bet he is. Okay, no surprise there. Hold on, I'm going to share my screen in just a second. I'm waiting for this to cue this after these ads. Elon needs to be worried about those Teslas and all these problems. I'm hearing people can't even open the doors. The door handles are breaking, battery issues and all that. That's what he needs to be focusing on. Dirty devil.
Business decision for him, but
Sandra, Tesla CEO Elon Musk indicating that he is back to supporting Republican politicians ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. The billionaire was Republicans' biggest donor during the 2024 election cycle. Let's bring in Tiffany Smiley, former Republican Senate candidate and Endeavor PAC founder, and Megan Hayes, former director of message planning for the Biden White House. Ladies, thank you very much. And Tiffany, let me just go right to Elon's tweet. This is what really got everyone's attention when he says this: America is toast if the radical left wins. They will open the floodgates to illegal immigration, and fraud won't be America anymore. Now, when someone who gave more than $290 million to the Republican effort last election cycle, that carries weight. You see it there, $291.5 million. Is this, I'm guessing, welcome news for Republicans trying to retain majorities in the House and Senate?
Yeah, this is great news. It will be hard to retain the House. We need Elon's help. There are key races in the Senate, but I want to back up a little bit. I defended Elon and the Department of Government Efficiency from the beginning. I think it was a really brilliant move by President Trump to bring in a political outsider, someone who is a genius, is a tech innovator, a creator, to come in and root out the waste, fraud, and abuse. And I have to say, while the DC elite
Oh, there they go. They praise everything and anything and everything that Trump does. Okay, Metro Man said, did y'all see Grok crash out again yesterday? No, I don't even use that. Isn't that like an app or something? Or some sort of site, AI chatbot or whatever? I don't use it, beloved. Think they planned it, cussing folks out, talking down, and sending kitty corn. Take me to the king. Not take you to the king, beloved. You are something else. Okay. Yeah, DJ Big Six said it's just like GPT. Yeah, I've never used it. I've heard of it though. Not take me to the king. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, listen, let me tell y'all something. Thank you for your insight into the topic, beloved. Even though that's not into the topic, but thank you for the information and also your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. I appreciate you all. Listen, you all are going in saying Reppin' Magazine OG is a troll. Okay, I'm not going to say that's a troll just because they have a difference of opinion. You all know that I don't have a problem with people having a difference of opinion as long as they're not being rude or disrespectful. Now, if Reppin' Magazine thinks that Trump's doing his job, okay, that's all fine. Because let's not forget that Luna also likes to see what Trump is doing. I'm going to report on it regardless, okay? Reppin' says this is not our problem. Well, it actually is not. It actually is not our problem. But I love to see it when the devils are fighting amongst themselves, because that's what they're doing right now, okay? All the snakes are in the pit and they're all scraping and scratching against one another, and I love to see it. All right, so with that all being said, and not to mention this is all very interesting and clearly nefarious. All right, so anyway, with that all being said, let's continue. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Nene said, Queen, are you going to talk about Stefanski getting fired? I talked about that yesterday, beloved, on the second broadcast I did. Yesterday, I came right back after the first broadcast and did another one where I talked about that. Okay, so go check that one out, beloved. You know I was thrilled about it.
And the bureaucrats and the career politicians screamed and whined. The American people cheered for Elon as he uncovered and rooted out billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. But he also knows it was a massive sacrifice.
A sacrifice for what? These people are something else. Dynamic Quality said, not our problem, but our concern for sure. Exactly. Okay, we're going to definitely be talking about it. I mean, it's just too interesting to me.
He faced the rhetoric of the far left, and he knows it's not just rhetoric. Death threats, his Tesla stores were caught on fire. Tesla cars were caught on fire. Shareholders got mad at him. But here's what's at stake.
Okay, so they're acting like he gave this big sacrifice, honey. Please. This was all beneficial for him. He was getting government contracts and all of that, okay? For kissing Trump's butt. And he's one of the main people who helped Trump to get into office. All right. These people, like I said, they love all this BS that Trump is doing. Fox is part of the MAGA cult, in my opinion. Now, Dynamic Quality, thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings.
He understands that the American dream has to be fought for. He understands that this far left, dangerous rhetoric from the Democrats is actually fueling violence. And not only that, they're also coordinated and organized, and they're selling socialism. We are seeing it from New York to Washington State, and it's catching on more and more. So Elon knows that something has to be done to preserve and protect the American dream. It has to be fought for, and people have to sacrifice for it. He is a patriot, and I'm glad that he's stepping up to the plate and doing everything he can for these midterms.
You know, Megan, so the gap in fundraising between the RNC and DNC is quite massive. It's roughly 12 million on hand for the Democrats, whereas 14.5 million there and 91 million for Republicans. It's fascinating to me, though, Megan, because setting aside the fundraising gap, do you see for Democrats a silver lining for Elon Musk getting back into the fray?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think most people understand that Elon Musk has one thing in mind, and that's keeping his government contracts and his ability to create wealth for himself. And that's probably why he's getting back involved, because he wants Republicans in power, so he's able to keep those policies and those contracts for himself. But the American people aren't buying it. They're not buying the American policies that Trump is selling right now. So it's not going to matter how much money is being spent. The American people are going to object these policies again coming in the midterms. They don't want to see a Congress that is solely ruled by Republicans. They want to check on Trump, whether or not they're Democrats. Can give all the money he wants, and most of it will probably go to primary candidates that Donald Trump supports against more moderate Republicans that are going to be doing good for our country. But I mean, if he wants to spend his money that way, fine. His company Tesla is down for the second year in a row, and he lost a lot of money. Not that it matters, because he's the richest man in the world, but he also lost a lot of money. His company's lost a lot of money the last time he got involved in politics. So I'm not sure it's the best business decision for him, but come on over. The American people will tell you exactly what they'll reject, and that will be the Republicans' policies in 26.
Well, Tiffany, what do you say to that?
No, I mean, Megan, Elon was a billionaire before he got into government. So I don't think he's really worried about government contracts. What I think he's fighting for is the American dream and the preservation of it. He has seen firsthand that the far left is violent. They will stop at nothing. They will throw out death threats. Look what happened to Charlie Kirk. Look what happened to President Trump. And the American
These people need to sit down somewhere, okay? It's very interesting to me how they just try to go on and on about the left being so unhinged and so extreme and just being out there committing political violence. When the people, if we're paying attention, we should see that these people that are so unhinged tend to be on the right. And then she brings up, look what happened to Charlie Kirk. Well, look what happened to Charlie Kirk. But that man and his entire family was MAGA, okay? He was a right-wing extremist. If that's even who really took out Charlie Kirk, I'm just saying. They make no sense at all whatsoever. All right. But here's the thing. Trump has all this going on, and he thinks or thought this was going to be such a distraction from Epstein. But no, Trump, we're still talking about it, still trying to get to the bottom of it all, and we still have concerns. So now let's go to this video where Trump's DOJ just admitted that they've reviewed less than 1% of the Epstein files. Isn't that something? Okay, likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance. Here we go.
Donald Trump's Department of Justice admitted to a federal judge that they've reviewed less than 1% of the Epstein files. This Epstein saga is one of the most blatant cover-ups we've ever seen in American history. Late last night, Pam Bondi wrote a letter to the federal judge who oversaw Epstein's case, saying that it has finished reviewing less than 1% of the Epstein files for potential release. Only 12,285 documents have been released, while more than 2 million remain under review at different stages of review. They also said in this letter that the 1 million documents they recently uncovered are duplicates, but nonetheless still need to undergo a process of processing and deduplication. I think it's pretty clear to everybody that Donald Trump's Department of Justice is deliberately moving this slow so they don't have to release the files, and they're breaking the law in many different ways. Number one, they haven't released the files despite the law requiring them to do so, and they also haven't explained why they redacted all of those pages and why they removed Donald Trump's name from the files, which they're also legally required to do. The cover-up continues to get worse by the day, and regardless of what Donald Trump does here or abroad, I'm not going to let this story go, and neither should you. In the middle of the night, Donald Trump's Department of Justice admitted to a
Okay, so y'all heard that. Now listen, somebody put in the chat, Measured Man, says, remember, Maduro told us Elon is part of a demonic cult. Yeah, did you all know that? Once in the chat, if you all knew that, which I find that very interesting because I absolutely feel like there is something demonic about Elon Musk. And as I told you all on yesterday, I feel like there's a nefarious dark energy, like a dark cloud hovering over the United States, like this Antichrist energy. And I said the people that I feel that have that energy are Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates for certain. That's just my opinion. But yes, Maduro absolutely did say that. And I don't think he was lying. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has publicly claimed that Elon Musk is involved in the satanic cult or linked to satanic occult forces. Okay? Now, in a televised speech from August of 2024, Maduro attacked Elon Musk, saying that the Tesla and SpaceX and the ex-CEO was part of a satanic cult created by U.S. powers, and pointing to what he described as diabolical symbols, okay, that Musk uses, linking him and others, including Argentina's President Javier Milei, okay, to satanic occult influences. Okay, in other statements, Maduro accused Musk of displaying devilish symbols and being associated with satanic sects of U.S. power, characterizing his conflict with Musk and political opponents as a spiritual struggle. Okay, basically spiritual warfare. All right, so, you know, some people just said this is nothing more than political rhetoric. Okay, and there's no factual or no facts to it or whatever. But hey, you never know, because many of these people are satanic, and I think that Elon absolutely is. Okay, I feel that he absolutely is. Don't forget what his supposed former nanny said about him. Okay, you all do remember that video that I showed you oh so long ago, don't you? All right, so I'm just saying, honey, can't put anything past him. Now let's go to this report from ABC about Trump making all these threats.
Threatening other countries, including Colombia, Mexico, and Cuba. The State Department posting this image with the words, "This is our hemisphere." Rachel has more from the White House.
Well, Maggie, the impacts of that operation in Venezuela are already starting to ripple across Washington. We saw top lawmakers over on Capitol Hill receive their first classified briefing. Remember, they were not notified until after that operation was already underway. President Trump defending it, insisting that it was legal, and also insisting that the U.S. is not at war with Venezuela. But there are still many questions on how exactly the U.S. is going to run Venezuela, especially as the president is now threatening that he may target other countries too, including Colombia, Cuba, and even Greenland. We are getting reaction from world leaders now. You have Colombia's president saying, "Do not threaten me. I'll be waiting here if you want," indicating he's ready to take up arms. In addition to Colombia, we also heard the president reiterate that he wants Greenland to be part of the United States. The Danish prime minister says, with respect to Greenland, if the U.S. attacks a NATO ally, then everything stops.
Okay, let's go to this next clip. This is from MS Now.
The U.S.'s stunning capture of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro this weekend. President Trump is now suggesting that he doesn't intend to stop at Venezuela.
We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and the European Union needs us to have it, and they know that.
The president circling back on his calls for the U.S. to seize Greenland, which he brought up just before coming into office 1 year ago. Greenland, though, is not the only place he has in mind.
Colombia is very sick too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States.
So there will be an operation by the U.S.
It sounds good to me. Cuba is ready to fall. You know? Yes. Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
Trump also notably even gave Mexico a heads up, saying that drug cartels, not the president there, are running the country and that he's going to have to take action. The U.S.'s commitment to our longtime allies is in question right now, and just how far the president's expansionist vision will go is unclear. I recently talked to one European diplomat who suggested to me that the president is accelerating the global order shift, one that is effectively held up for the better part ever since World War II. If, for example, the U.S. were to try to take Greenland, it would be a direct attack on a NATO ally, a violation that could very well jeopardize the entirety of the future of the 32-nation security alliance. In 2025, especially through tariffs, Trump repeatedly tried to use economic coercion to get his way. But now in 2026, the question is whether he'll increasingly try to turn to military coercion. After the U.S.'s stunning
Okay, so this is all very dangerous what this clown is doing. And I also want you to pay attention to this. The fact that Trump has all these nefarious negative things to say about immigrants in the United States, and he has ICE, harassing them and just locking them up, depriving them of their rights and all of this. But then the only time he ever praises them or says anything nice is when he's threatening to go into their countries. Now, he can't stand the Venezuelans. We know that. Look at how he took all those Venezuelan people and just demonized them, saying they're part of a gang, Tren de Agua, which maybe some of them were, or maybe there is such a gang, but he was just labeling people that and lying. We saw how he had that Photoshop picture and he knew it was Photoshopped, painted all of these nefarious narratives. We hear how he talks down on these people constantly. At the end of the day, and that may not be our problem, but it is something of concern that we should all be looking at. Okay, as far as I'm concerned. And here's the thing. Now you heard him say when he's talking about Cuba, he's looking for them to fall. Okay. And then he says, we have a lot of good Cuban Americans who are going to be happy about that. Oh, so now we have good Cuban Americans? When he was just demonizing Cubans not too long ago. Okay. So he just says whatever, whenever, and Trump is so nonsensical. Nothing of what he ever says makes a bit of sense. He says what people want to hear when he needs to. And other than that, he's always just talking big and trying to make himself seem like he's just, a whole mob boss and everyone needs to bend the knee and bow down to him. But let's continue because this is what Hakeem Jeffries had to say.
Is that the administration took military action without congressional approval. It was military action, not a law enforcement action, despite what members of the administration are claiming. And the notion that the American people are supposed to believe that the military action that the Trump administration took had anything really to do with a counter narcotics effort is belied by the fact that it was Donald Trump just a few weeks ago who pardoned the former president of Honduras.
Okay, exactly. So make it make sense. All right, make that make sense. Now, he's so concerned about people bringing illegal substances, but then you go ahead and pardon someone who was doing just that. Absolutely crazy. All right, so likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, with that all being said, before we roll out of here, I want to talk about these two crime stories. One of them is where this CEO was killed, and the family's upset with the decision. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Let me share my screen. Okay, so Measure Man says, FYI, if you if you have Meta glasses or iPods bought after 1025, the 6G bill, the OBBB Act gives permission to read brain waves. When you register, you have to opt out. I don't have any of that crap. Okay. What is this about reading brain waves? They have some, none of this surprises me at the end of the day. Hold on, I'll talk about that in a minute. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you for the information and your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so a family of the Fairfax CEO killed while he was in bed as he lay asleep. They are upset about this supposed insanity plea agreement. Okay, the mental illness card again. Okay, please pay attention. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go.
Fairfax County is outraged over a possible insanity plea for a man accused of killing their loved one. Police say 32-year-old Greg Glyer was shot multiple times as he slept next to his wife.
So this happened back in 2022. An acquaintance, 36-year-old Joshua Danehauer, is charged with his murder. Now, Glyer's loved ones are now coming forward after they claim the suspect might be found not guilty due to reasons of insanity.
Our Matthew Torres is at the Fairfax County Courthouse with the latest developments and why the family feels prosecutors just aren't doing enough.
So here we are 3.5 years later without my son.
It's been a tumultuous journey for Sylvia Glyer and her family on a mission for justice for her son Gret, shot and killed in a home invasion in Fairfax City in 2022.
He had a global network around the world of people that love and care about him. And all these people are hoping for justice in this case.
Pick out your very first DonorSee project.
Glyer was the 32-year-old CEO of his charitable nonprofit DonorSee. Authorities say Joshua Danehauer broke into Glyer's home and shot him 10 times while he slept. Glyer's wife was lying next to him, and their 2 toddlers were at home at the time. None of them were hurt.
This evil murderer knew what he was doing.
While the motive is unknown, Glyer's family says the suspect went on a date with Glyer's wife a decade earlier. Nothing more happened, but they claim the suspect kept wanting to reconnect. Just months before the shooting, Glyer and his family started attending church, where Danehauer happened to be a member.
This trial should have been held 2 years ago.
Years of delays in competency evaluations have frustrated the family. Over the holidays, the family met with prosecutors. They say they were told Danehauer could possibly receive an insanity plea.
We were told this whole time for 3.5 years that an insanity plea was not an option, only because of how much evidence that there was in this case, that the man who killed my brother intended to kill him, and that he knew what he was doing in the sense that he knew the difference between right and wrong.
The Fairfax County Commonwealth's Attorney's Office did meet with the family and claimed to discuss various options, including an insanity plea. This after an expert for the defense declared Danehauer was insane. Prosecutors hired their own expert, but the final report has yet to be submitted. The prosecutor's office has not made a final decision, but the family says they left that meeting feeling differently.
When we heard that there was going to be the possibility of a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, we did not accept that.
Shocked and appalled that the prosecution team would allow this to happen and not fight for a trial, which there is a legal precedence to do.
If there is an insanity plea, Danehauer would be in a mental facility where there's a yearly hearing for 5 years. Loved ones fear he would have a chance to get out.
I want to say a message to the judge. Don't let injustice prevail in Virginia.
So what happens next? Loved ones are hoping to find out during the next court hearing scheduled January 23rd. In Fairfax tonight, Matthew Torres, WUSA 9.
That is so wicked and nefarious. Okay, condolences to the family of the victim. Shot him 10 times. Okay, now he wants to feign insanity. He knew exactly what he was doing, okay? I'm pretty sure he knew exactly what he was doing. I find it all so nefarious. Okay, but anyway, that is horrible. And the wife lying right there and kids in the home. Thank God he didn't hurt any of them. Okay, thank God he didn't hurt any of them. And that's what further makes me think that he wasn't crazy, because he knew not to hurt them. Okay. And how did he even get in there? Because a CEO, they usually have money. Okay. Now they didn't have some type of, serious security measures, because I sure would have. But anyway, let's get back to what Measurement said about these glasses or Meta glasses that can read brainwaves, because they say that the Meta glasses don't directly read brain waves, okay? They use a wristband or a neural band with EMG sensors to detect muscle signals from your forearm for subtle gesture control, interpreting intent for actions like texting or taking calls. But they have these research headsets that do use EEG to measure brain activity for VR. Virtual reality, I guess that's what that's for. Meta's focus is on translating muscle signals. Okay, either way, they're talking about these EEG, these research headsets with EEG measure brain activity. Let me tell you something. I don't like anything that they're doing that has any type of connection or information about my brain. Okay? That's what I don't like. I don't like any of that. And let me tell you something. Don't you all find it strange that sometimes you could be literally thinking about something? Has this happened to you all? You could be thinking about something or talking about something, and then an ad or something for it pops up on your phone. Have you all ever had that happen? Because one night, and this is about maybe 3 years ago, me and my friend were talking about Russell Westbrook. Okay, because she was talking about she had a crush on him. And I'm like, girl, he had on a whole skirt. Remember he had on that long white skirt? I'm like, girl, he wears skirts, honey. You talk about a crush. So when I got off the phone with her and I went to log into X, the first thing that popped up was it was giving me a recommendation to follow Russell Westbrook. And I remember thinking, why the hell are they suggesting I follow Russell Westbrook? And then I thought about the conversation. I was like, wow, isn't that something? So what I do is I turn off the microphone. Yeah, DJ Big Six said the microphone on your device was open. Exactly. So I went and turned it off. I turn off the microphone on my devices for these apps because they straight up be listening. It's all nefarious. Dynamic Quasi said maybe some women like men in skirts. I mean, maybe they do. Okay, maybe they do, honey. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they do, but honey, I like for my man to dress in a suit and tie. Okay, or in some jeans and a t-shirt or something like that. I don't want my man wearing a skirt. That's all I'm saying. Okay, make it all make sense. I don't even wear skirts myself. I prefer dresses, but nonetheless, I mean, if I'm going to dress up. But honey, y'all can sit down somewhere talking about Dynamic Quasi talking about some women might like men in skirts. I guess some of them do, honey. Okay. And the queen just doesn't want one. All right. Because, honey, if you're wearing a skirt and then the queen needs some help and you got to run and try to jump in, honey, how you going to fight with your long skirt on, honey? Okay. How you going to fight with a skirt on? I'm sorry. Make it all make sense. Okay, y'all need to sit down. Jay McClin said privacy is dead. Privacy has, in fact, been dead since 9/11, okay, with the Patriot Act. Privacy has been gone. Dynamic Quantity said, I'm just saying. G from the land said, Queen be showing them thighs in the skirt. Sit down somewhere, honey. I don't even wear skirts. I wear dresses. Oh, you're probably talking about that picture I have in one of my videos that I show for y'all sometimes when I had on that short dress. Y'all need to sit down somewhere. Okay, Measure Man said, yes, we are a surveillance state. Yeah, exactly. Listening to phone calls. I mean, just doing all kinds of nefarious things. Now, let's go to this next story because I thought this was very interesting. This elder killed his wife, 80 years old, I do believe, and he killed his wife. And this is the first homicide in Memphis for 2023. I mean, 2026. Okay, so let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. All right, here we go.
Violent weekend in the Bluff City. An 88-year-old man is charged in Memphis's first homicide of 2026 after allegedly shooting his wife. Thank you for joining us. I'm April Thompson.
I'm Alex Coleman. WREG's Braille Brown has more on what neighbors are saying about the man being charged with second-degree murder.
After I woke up the next day and actually heard about it, it surprised me because I never expected him like that. He looked like a loving person.
Just before 2:30 Sunday morning, fatal gunshots rang out in the 3800 block of Fillsdale Avenue. The man accused of pulling the trigger is 88-year-old Raymond Dowdy.
Him and his wife, I never would have expected that. And he been my neighbor like 30, 40 years or so. I heard the shooting that night, but woke me up and I went on back to sleep.
According to the affidavit, police responded to an alarm call and found Dowdy inside of the home, and his wife made Dowdy dead from a gunshot wound.
They be sitting outside in them little chairs. He be in one, she be in the other, but I never expected that though.
Police say Dowdy told them that he got mad and lost control in a disagreement with his wife, so he shot her. Another resident who wanted to keep their identity confidential says this should serve as a reminder to reconsider your actions in a heated moment.
We as a group of people, we need to start loving each other instead of hating each other, because here in the city of Memphis, there's too much anger.
Those who knew the couple say it will take time to heal from this.
He was too much to himself. You see that lady, you see him. Yep. It's kind of sad.
Dowdy's next court appearance is set for Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Reporting for your news leader, Braille Brown, WREG News Channel 3.
All right, well, that's a sad story. That is a sad story, okay? Prayers and condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones. I mean, elders out here taking people out. What is going on? It's just all so bad, okay? At the end of the day, it's just all bad. Now, with that being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. All right, I'm going to conclude the broadcast, and I want to thank you all for tuning in again. So, in conclusion, Trump and his minions are still telling lies. Okay, they're still out here making threats, acting like they're John Gotti or Trump's John Gotti, and they're carrying out his orders. Okay, and just bullying these other countries, making threats of taking over other entities and all of that. And running Venezuela's oil industry. I find it all crazy. Okay, this is going to bring more harm than good to the United States as far as I'm concerned, but we'll see how it all pans out. Everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. All right, I love you all to life. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Okay, and listen, I may be back later. I don't know if there is in fact some breaking news. I definitely will. But I want you all to pay attention to how Stephen Miller was talking all that trash. I just want you all to remember how these people are so unhinged, just like Trump. Okay, and Stephen Miller talking about damn straight we did. The nerve, okay? Like they can just snatch up whatever they want when they want. I just really am just so perplexed about the whole thing because Trump has turned them all into some serious egomaniacs. All right. And when you have people with this amount of unchecked power and they just feel like they can just do these things that we've witnessed them do, breaking all kinds of laws, trying to rewrite policies and doing all kinds of crazy things, or not rewrite, but trying to reinterpret policies and pushing these narratives and all of that. This is all a serious recipe for disaster. And we all know that I've been telling y'all from day one that Trump's going to lead us into World War III. And I'm not the only one. Okay, we all should know how nefarious this man is. Everything he's doing is very dangerous. That's right. Claudette said a crew of thugs. Okay? And a lie doesn't care who tells it in his administration. So please pay attention. Anyway, with that all been said, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
With that gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes. how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating